Hi, I'm Daniel Metler from TwoSick Internet Solutions, and I would like to show you how to use relationships in TwoSexy content. So it works very easily, but it needs some razor. So let's just get started. We're going to quickly look at what relationships actually are, like how to connect entities together and what that means, how to configure it so it works, the difference between just adding one or many items to a relationship, and then outputting both related items and information about it, as well as items that work on top of that. Like, so for example, if I have a blog entry and it relates to a bunch of tags, then it's important on one hand to get from the blog to the tags, but it's also important to get from the tags to the blogs. So that's what we're going to look at, and I'm not going to talk a lot here, so let's just go ahead with the code. What you see here is a page which has some related information. I'm just going to show you a bit how it works. Here's a list of courses, and each course has an author assigned to it. And this information, who the author is, his name and his picture, actually comes from this authors section, which you see down here. So this course list actually just knows it's that author at the bottom, and the rest of the information is retrieved in the background through the data system, through the relationship. The same thing applies to the tags here. It has a few tags, and these tags are down here. And so these tags here are related to this, and this allows for some cross-linking between information. So pretty simple. I'm going to switch over to Internet Explorer now, where I'm logged in, to show you how this is configured. So first of all, let's look at such a course. If I go edit this course, what you'll see is that this looks pretty standard, like in TwoSexy content, but here the author currently shows all possible entities in the system. Not extremely practical, but just for demo's sake, here I can show any kind of relationship. I can actually say this thing relates to anything else. Usually you don't want to do this. Usually you want to do it the way we did in the categories, where it only shows entities of the type category. And what you'll also see is the author is only one item, but there are many categories, and I can add new ones as I wish. The UI is not perfect yet, we're working on that, but I can add multiple categories. And just for the heck of it, let's say I'm going to add jQuery here. So now it has a category more. And just to quickly show you the record before, if we look in Chrome here, you see there's no jQuery here yet. So let's save it in Internet Explorer, and then a moment later it should also have jQuery as an assigned category. Let's give it a moment. And there we go. It's been added. So that's how it works as a UI. In the background, the configuration looks like this. When I go to managing my content types, this is a course that I had, right? So when I go to designing the fields, you will see that an author is an entity. So if I say insert field and I would want to relate something else, like I would like to say related courses, then I would say entity. Okay? The category as well is an entity, and the setup of entity you'll see is very simple. I can say whether it has multiple assignments or just one, and if it should filter by an entity type, which we did right now. So right now it's going to show us only entities of the type category. Authors doesn't have a filter at the moment, that's why it shows everything. So that's a setup. It's very simple. And let's look at the code. So what we have here is we have a course, and it knows I have related to me an author, and I have related to me some tags, categories in our case. And let's look at the code. It's pretty simple, actually. First of all, you'll see that I have the toolbar of this item. No big deal. And here's an explanation, which I'll just show you what it does. Actually, I'm saying here's a tricky part. I have to test if there is anything inside this relationship, if the author has anything in it. And since this, by default, if there's nothing in it, a string comes back saying like nothing in it, then the type would be string if it's blank. There's other ways to test for it, but this is just the cheapest way, and if you're just getting started, just do it like this. Check that it's not a string, and that there's actually a count. Okay? The reason why it has a count is there could always be more than one author in here. There could always be more than one category, right? So it's always a list, even if it's just one. So by looking if the count exceeds 0, you'll know whether there's something in there. So if it finds it, then let's say the author, and let's get this variable, and you'll see I get it from the index 0 because I know there is something in it. Count is more than 0. And I know there should only be one. I mean, I know this because I made the template in the content type. So I'm just getting the first one, and then I'm outputting it like here. Let me just try to zoom in case you don't see this. So again, test that it's not a string. So in case you just get the default error message instead of content. And test that it has a count, then get the first item, and then use this to show the link, to show the full name, and to show the photo. Here, a little neat trick, by the way, if you have the licensed version of the thumbnailer, cool thing, by the way, then you can also do things like Google pictures and stuff like that. Okay, the categories looks the same. If anything is in this list, I skipped down the other test here just for the heck of it. If anything is in the list, then for each one, just write the category. So you must understand, if we're going through the relationship like here, cat in categories, or in here, author is the first one of the authors. You have the same object model like you had before. You can just say author.fullname, author.weblink, author.picture, photo, whatever. It works the very same way. So this is pretty neat and pretty cool and very easy to use. Extremely powerful feature. We've been using it on some cool projects so far. We really love it. So now I'd like to show you a slightly more advanced scenario. In this case here, we're actually going the other way around. The course already has authors assigned, and now in the author list, we would like to show all the courses that were assigned on the other element, remember? Now, TooSexy Content actually really manages the relationship. It's not just a pointer from one thing to another. It really knows these things are all hooked up together. The reason why we're doing this is because in the future, we want to make sure that TooSexy Content can help you know if something is still in use. So if something is still referred to somewhere, it'll be able to tell you that you can't delete it. So let's look at this template, because that's the other thing. It doesn't go to the child-related item. It actually says who's pointing to me, and let's get information about that. And it's a bit nastier, so let me just explain it. If it's over your head, don't worry. This is not something you need every day. Here we did it the long way. In a following example, you'll see the short code. But let's just, first of all, we're going through all the authors, because this is a list, not a single item. And then here's the thing. To get all the backwards relationships, we have to go into a different API, because this is not simple anymore, right? TooSexy Content is simple. If you really want to do complex stuff, you have to change APIs into the Entity Attribute Value API. So if you don't understand this, just copy the code and don't worry about it. So we're kind of saying, okay, please look at this content, but look at it as if it were an entity and not as a sexy content anymore, so we can have more complex features. For example, we would like to know everything about its relationships, and we would like to know all the parents of this entity. So all parents. And when we found all the parents, we only want the ones that are actually a course. Why is this? We may actually have other things referring to these authors as well. We could have maybe books. We could have products or favorite dogs or something that would all be saying this author is related to me. You could also have an employees list where an employee could be referring to his manager. And you don't want these things to appear here. We just want the courses. And these are things like detecting the entity type and things like that. That's EAV stuff, okay? So now we have a list of all courses in here because of all the entities referring to this. We only have the ones that are actually course. So from then on, it gets simple again. We get the toolbar. We get the full name. And yeah, the toolbar is from the content, by the way. This was just getting it. We're not using it until here. Here we're saying, if there are any courses, if anything was found here, then courses by Daniel Metler, for example. And then it says for each one in this list. And here we're going back to the Sexy Content API. So if you've never done this type conversion before, going back from Sexy Content to the EAV system, don't worry, just copy the code, it'll work. But so previously we had to go to the EAV system, we had more complex commands. Now we're saying again, make this a dynamic object again so I can just write seat title. Very simple. Okay? So that's how it works. And this now allows us to go the other way around. Let me just zoom out again and say, okay, Daniel Metler has this course, Benjamin has this one, Raphael has these two. And here we did a really funky example. Here, we're getting the categories first, then we're sorting it alphabetically, then we're getting all the courses of this category, and then we're getting the author that belongs to the course. So we're going 2 levels deep just to show you how it works, because it's so cool. Okay? Again, let's zoom in a bit. Easier to read. And the long stack of code that we commented, we simplified this here because it does the same thing. You can write it much shorter. So, here. For each, the list is the categories, right? We're sorting all the categories. No big deal. This is the content. So in other words, this is like the category DNN. And now we're getting all the courses. And this, we're saying, cast it to entity, get the relationship, all parents, and only where it's a course. So what you saw before with all those comments can be done in this short 3-liner, very easy to read, but you have to understand it. Then, we're creating the toolbar for this category DNN. We're writing, hello, this is DNN. If it found any courses, then show all the courses. For each course, make it, cast it as a dynamic, again, to make it easy to use. Write the title, and if the course has an author, back to here, then get the author's full name and the photo with the round corners. So, I hope this wasn't too confusing. But it's really cool, we love it. But of course, yes, this is more techie style. So you need to understand a bit about Razor, a bit about entities, a bit how databases kind of work. But this is all in memory, super fast, and it just works. So go ahead, look at the code, discover it, test it, have fun. Okay? This is one of the new features. By the way, it only works in 2Sexy Content 5.3. So if you have an older version, you'll need to update. So I hope you understood what I just showed you. If you don't, look at the code on the website 2sexycontent.org. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed it. Go ahead, give it a try. This was Daniel Mettler, 2Sec Internet Solutions. Thank you for watching.